The Mirror's Edge. What lies behind the reflection? A psychological thriller story. In a quiet, dimly lit room, Ethan Holloway faces a sinister mystery that shatters the boundaries between reality and reflection. As an eerie force emerges from a seemingly ordinary mirror, Ethan must confront his deepest fears and unravel a chilling secret that lies just beyond the glass. Prepare yourself for a psychological journey into darkness and suspense. Ethan Holloway had always been fascinated by the concept of duality, the notion that light and dark, good and evil, existed not as opposites but as reflections of one another. As a clinical psychologist, he had spent years delving into the minds of his patients, unraveling the threads of their psyches, and trying to help them navigate the complexities of their inner worlds. Yet, despite his extensive knowledge, there was one mind he had never fully understood: his own. Ethan lived in a modest, sparsely furnished apartment in the heart of the city. The space was a reflection of his life, orderly, controlled, and devoid of any unnecessary clutter. Every book was alphabetized on the shelves, every piece of furniture placed with precision. It was a sanctuary, a place where he could retreat from the chaos of the world and lose himself in his work. But lately the apartment had begun to feel different, as if something had shifted imperceptibly, disrupting the carefully maintained balance he had worked so hard to achieve. It began with the dreams. For as long as he could remember, Ethan had been a lucid dreamer, able to control and manipulate his dreams with ease. But these new dreams were different, vivid, intense, and disturbingly real. In them, he found himself in a darkened room, illuminated only by the faint glow of a single flickering candle. The air was thick with the scent of burning wax, and the walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. As he stood there, he would hear a voice, soft, seductive, and eerily familiar, whispering his name. Ethan. Ethan. The voice would draw him toward the far side of the room, where a large, ornate mirror stood. Its surface was smooth and polished, reflecting the candle's flame with an unnatural clarity. But as he approached, the reflection in the mirror would begin to change. It was still him, but not him. The eyes were darker, the expression colder, more malevolent. The figure in the mirror would smile, a slow, sinister curve of the lips, and then raise a hand to touch the glass. Ethan would do the same, compelled by an inexplicable force, until their fingers met on the cold surface. And then he would wake up, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. The dreams haunted him, lingering in the back of his mind even during his waking hours. He tried to rationalize them, to explain them away as manifestations of stress or exhaustion. After all, his work was demanding, and the cases he dealt with often took a toll on him. But deep down, he knew there was something more to it, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. One evening, after yet another restless night, Ethan decided to consult an old friend, Dr. Victor Crane, a renowned psychiatrist and expert in dream analysis. They had studied together in college and remained close over the years, often exchanging ideas and insights about their respective fields. Victor agreed to meet him at his office, a cozy, dimly lit space filled with the scent of sandalwood and old books. The walls were lined with shelves, each one crammed with volumes on psychology, neurology, and the occult, a particular interest of Victor's. Ethan. Victor greeted him warmly, gesturing for him to take a seat. It's been too long. What brings you here? Ethan hesitated, unsure of how to begin. I've been having these dreams, he finally said. They're unsettling to say the least. I was hoping you could help me make sense of them. Victor leaned forward, his interest piqued. Tell me everything. Ethan recounted the dreams in detail, describing the dark room, the candle, the mirror, and the reflection that wasn't quite his own. Victor listened intently, his expression thoughtful as he absorbed every word. When Ethan finished, Victor remained silent for a moment, as if carefully considering his response. Dreams are often a window into the subconscious, he said finally. They can reveal aspects of ourselves that we may not be fully aware of, hidden desires, fears, or unresolved conflicts. Ethan nodded, though he had already considered this explanation. But why now? Why these dreams? Victor rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It could be a number of things. Perhaps you're going through a period of internal turmoil or facing a decision that weighs heavily on you. The mirror, in particular, is a powerful symbol. It represents self-reflection, the duality of the self. The fact that the reflection is different from your waking self suggests that there may be a part of you that you're not fully acknowledging. Ethan frowned. A part of me? What do you mean? Victor met his gaze, his eyes serious. We all have a shadow self, Ethan, the darker aspects of our personality that we keep hidden even from ourselves. These dreams could be your shadow self trying to make itself known. The idea unsettled Ethan more than he cared to admit. He had spent his life helping others confront their demons, yet he had always believed that he had his own firmly under control. The thought that there might be something lurking beneath the surface, something he couldn't control, was deeply disturbing. Is there anything I can do? He asked, his voice tinged with desperation. Victor smiled gently. The first step is to confront whatever it is that's causing these dreams. You need to face your shadow self, acknowledge it, and integrate it into your conscious mind. Only then can you find peace. Ethan left Victor's office feeling no closer to an answer than when he had arrived. The dreams continued, each one more vivid and terrifying than the last. The figure in the mirror seemed to grow stronger, more distinct, as if it were gaining power with each encounter. And with each passing day, Ethan felt himself unraveling, his grip on reality slipping. One night, after another fitful sleep, Ethan awoke to find himself standing in front of his bedroom mirror. He had no memory of getting out of bed, no recollection of how he had ended up there. The room was dark, the only light coming from the street lamp outside his window, casting long, eerie shadows across the walls. He stared at his reflection, half expecting to see the malevolent figure from his dreams staring back at him. But it was just him, tired, disheveled, and pale. He let out a shaky breath, relieved, and was about to turn away when something caught his eye. There, in the corner of the mirror, was a small crack. It was barely noticeable, just a thin, jagged line running diagonally across the glass. But it hadn't been there before. Ethan leaned in closer, his breath fogging up the surface as he traced the crack with his finger. The glass felt cold, unnaturally so, and a shiver ran down his spine. As he touched the crack, a sharp pain shot through his head, like a needle being driven into his skull. He gasped, clutching his temples as the pain intensified, spreading like wildfire through his mind. His vision blurred, and for a moment he thought he saw something. Someone, moving behind the glass, a shadowy figure with glowing eyes. And then it was gone, leaving him alone in the dark, panting and trembling. Ethan stumbled back from the mirror, his heart racing. He knew he couldn't go on like this, that he needed to take action before whatever was happening to him consumed him entirely. He decided to follow Victor's advice and confront his shadow self directly. The next day he took a leave of absence from work, citing health reasons. He needed time to think, to unravel the mystery of his dreams and the crack in the mirror. He spent hours researching, poring over books on psychology, dream analysis, and the occult. But the more he read, the more questions he had, and the more elusive the answers became. It wasn't until he came across an old, dusty tome on mirror magic that he finally found a clue. The book spoke of ancient rituals involving mirrors, portals to other realms, and the dangers of confronting one's own reflection. It warned that those who gazed too deeply into the mirror risked losing themselves to the darkness within. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine as he read the passage, the words resonating with a truth he couldn't ignore. He realized that the mirror in his dreams wasn't just a symbol, it was a gateway, a portal to something beyond his understanding. But if that was the case, then what was on the other side? And why was it trying to reach him? Determined to find answers, Ethan decided to conduct an experiment. He would perform the ritual described in the book, a method of confronting and banishing the darkness within. It was risky, but he felt he had no other choice. That night, he set up the ritual in his apartment, following the instructions meticulously. He placed a large mirror in the center of the room, surrounded by candles, their flames flickering in the dim light. The air was thick with tension as he began the incantation, his voice low and steady. As he spoke the final words, the room seemed to grow colder, and the shadows on the walls deepened. The mirror's surface rippled, as if a stone had been dropped into a pool of water, and the reflection blurred and distorted. Ethan stared into the mirror, his heart pounding as the figure from his dreams slowly materialized. It was him, yet not him. His shadow self, the darker, twisted version that had haunted his nightmares. The figure smiled, a cold, predatory grin, and raised a hand to the glass. Ethan felt a pull, an irresistible force drawing him closer, as if the figure were trying to drag him into the mirror. "No," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. "I won't let you." But the figure's grip was strong, and Ethan could feel his will weakening, his resolve crumbling. The mirror seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, the cracks spreading wider, as if the glass itself were trying to consume him. In a final act of desperation, Ethan reached out and grabbed the edge of the mirror, his fingers digging into the cold, unyielding surface. The pain in his head intensified, a searing, blinding agony that threatened to tear him apart. And then, with a primal scream, he shattered the mirror. The glass exploded in a shower of shards, the sound deafening in the small room. The candles flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Ethan collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath, his body shaking uncontrollably. When he finally opened his eyes, the room was silent, the darkness oppressive. The mirror was gone, reduced to a pile of broken glass at his feet. The shadowy figure had vanished, leaving him alone in the wreckage. But something was different. Ethan felt it immediately, a lightness, a sense of relief, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The pain in his head was gone, and the fear that had gripped him for so long had dissipated. He had confronted his shadow self, and in doing so had banished it forever. But as he stared at the shattered remains of the mirror, a nagging doubt crept into his mind. Had he truly defeated the darkness, or had he simply driven it deeper, where it could bide its time and grow stronger? Only time would tell. Ethan Holloway knew one thing for certain. The mirror may have been broken, but the reflection it had shown him would never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Explore our playlist of psychological thrillers for more gripping stories. See you in the next story.